Imagine waking up tomorrow to a world that looks exactly like yesterday. The sunlight still spills through your window. Your phone is still buzzing on the nightstand. Outside, people are driving to work, children are walking to school, and somewhere, an airplane is crossing the morning sky. Everything feels perfectly ordinary. Then you try to stand. It's as if an invisible giant has climbed onto your back. Your legs tremble. Your breathing becomes heavy. For a split second, you wonder if you're having a heart attack. But you aren't. Something far stranger has happened. Overnight, Earth's gravity has doubled. Most people imagine the first casualties would be skyscrapers collapsing or airplanes falling from the sky. But that's not what happens. The first thing gravity attacks isn't civilization, it's you. Within seconds, millions of perfectly healthy people around the world collapse to the ground. Not because their bones break, not because they're crushed, but because their own hearts can no longer push enough blood to keep their brains alive. And strangely, the people who fall first may also become the first survivors. Because doubling Earth's gravity doesn't simply make life harder. It quietly rewrites the rules that every living thing on this planet has evolved to follow. The question isn't whether the world would survive. The question is, how long would we? The moment gravity doubles, nothing explodes. There is no earthquake, no deafening roar, no warning from the sky. The world looks exactly the same. But inside your body, a silent emergency has already begun. Every drop of blood suddenly weighs twice as much. Your heart doesn't instantly become stronger. It keeps pumping exactly as it did 1 second earlier. Now it has to push much heavier blood uphill to reach your brain. If you're standing, gravity immediately drags that blood towards your legs. Less returns to your heart, less reaches your brain. The effect is surprisingly familiar. Fighter pilots experience something similar during extreme maneuvers. As gravitational forces rise, blood drains away from the brain, causing their vision to narrow before they eventually black out. The difference is that pilots can escape those forces. You can't escape an entire planet. Within a few seconds, your eyesight begins fading around the edges. Colors lose their brightness. Your thoughts become slow and strangely distant. Then your knees give way. Across the planet, teachers stop speaking in the middle of class. Drivers drift toward the shoulder of the road. Doctors reach for instruments they can no longer hold steadily. Parents carrying young children suddenly lose their balance. Millions collapse almost simultaneously. It looks like a global catastrophe. In reality, it's a biological one. Human bones are far stronger than most people realize. Your skeleton isn't failing. Your circulatory system is. Then something unexpected happens. Many of the people who collapse begin waking up again. Lying flat dramatically reduces the height your heart must pump blood to reach your brain. The blood flow improves. Consciousness returns. The instinct that seems like defeat turns out to be the first successful survival strategy. For a few minutes, it almost feels as though the crisis has passed. It hasn't. Gravity has only claimed its first victim. Next, it comes for everything we have built. The first hour doesn't look like the end of the world. From a distance, cities are still standing. The lights are still on. Traffic lights still change from red to green. Cell towers still send signals across the city. If you looked from space, Earth would appear almost unchanged. But up close, you begin to notice something unsettling. Everyone is moving slower. Getting out of a chair now feels like finishing the last repetition in a heavy workout. A backpack that weighed 20 pounds yesterday now feels closer to 40. Climbing a single flight of stairs leaves people breathing hard. Gravity hasn't made movement impossible. It has made every movement expensive. And when every action costs twice as much energy, an entire civilization begins slowing down. Hospitals feel the change first. Doctors are still treating patients. Medicines still work. Machines still function. But every nurse pushing a hospital bed, every paramedic carrying a stretcher, every surgeon standing through a long operation burns through energy far faster than before. Procedures that once took one team now require two. Simple tasks become exhausting. Outside, the same pattern spreads across every industry. Construction workers can't lift as much. Warehouse employees unload fewer trucks. Garbage collectors finish only part of their routes. Delivery drivers stop more often to rest. Nothing has stopped working. Everything has simply become slower. At first, the delays seem insignificant. One shipment arrives an hour late. A warehouse processes a little less cargo. A supermarket receives fewer deliveries than expected. Individually, none of these problems seem dangerous. Together, they begin breaking one of civilization's most fragile systems: timing. Modern society depends on millions of tiny events happening exactly when they're supposed to. A truck delivers food before the shelves are empty. A fuel tanker reaches a gas station before the pumps run dry. A hospital receives oxygen before its reserves are exhausted. Gravity doesn't destroy these systems overnight. It quietly pushes every schedule behind. One delay creates another, then another, like dominoes falling in slow motion. By the end of the first day, supermarket shelves begin looking strangely empty. Not because people are panic buying, because replacement deliveries haven't arrived yet. Fuel consumption rises as vehicles work harder against their increased weight. Heavy machinery wears out faster. Maintenance crews fall behind. Factories reduce production because fewer raw materials reach them on time. For the first time in history, the world's greatest shortage isn't oil, or electricity, or money. It's human effort. As night falls, cities still glow. From a distance, they look alive. But beneath that familiar skyline, every person is spending more energy simply existing. And nature is about to make things even worse. The first storm under double gravity is unlike any storm humanity has ever experienced. The storm doesn't arrive with louder thunder or darker clouds. At first, it looks almost ordinary. A few drops strike the pavement. People barely notice. After everything they've endured, rain seems like the least of their problems. Then the downpour begins. Each raindrop now hits the ground with far more force than before. What was once a gentle shower now stings exposed skin. Within minutes, gardens are flattened, young crops are shredded, freshly planted fields become rivers of mud. But the rain itself isn't the real danger. It's what happens after it lands. The heavier atmosphere presses closer to the ground, and the faster-moving rainwater tears across the landscape before the soil can absorb it. Small streams overflow within hours. Roads disappear beneath rushing water. Hillsides collapse into landslides. Entire farming communities become isolated almost overnight. For farmers, the disaster is devastating. Working the land already demands twice the effort. Now, the harvest they've struggled to grow is being destroyed before it can even be collected. The food crisis doesn't begin in supermarkets. It begins here, in the fields. Then the forests begin to change. The tallest trees on Earth have always lived near the limits of what biology allows. Every day, they pull water from their roots all the way to leaves hundreds of feet above the ground. Double gravity makes that journey much harder. Water can no longer climb as easily. The first branches to die aren't the lowest ones. They're the highest. Weeks pass. The crowns of giant redwoods begin turning brown. The tops of rainforest trees slowly wither. Not because of disease, not because of insects, but because gravity has quietly made them too tall to feed themselves. The giants that survived for centuries begin dying from the top down. Animals face the same brutal reality. The larger the body, the higher the price. An elephant that once walked miles each day now spends far more energy simply standing. A giraffe's heart struggles to pump blood all the way to its brain. Long migrations become impossible. Hunting becomes less successful. Finding food burns almost as many calories as the food provides. Large animals don't disappear overnight. They simply become weaker generation after generation. Meanwhile, another group barely notices the change. Ants continue building colonies. Spiders keep spinning webs. Beetles crawl through the undergrowth as if nothing happened. Their bodies are so small that gravity has far less influence over them. For millions of years, mammals dominated the land because size was an advantage. Now, size has become a liability. Nature has rewritten the rules. The winners are no longer the strongest. They're the smallest. As scientists struggle to understand the changes happening on Earth, a far greater disaster is already unfolding above their heads. One that almost nobody can see. Because hundreds of kilometers overhead, the sky itself is beginning to fall. Far above the storms, far above the mountains, thousands of satellites continue racing around Earth at nearly 8 kilometers every second. Most people think they stay in orbit because there's no gravity in space. In reality, gravity is exactly what keeps them there. They're constantly falling toward Earth. They're simply moving sideways fast enough to keep missing it. It's a perfect balance. Until now. The instant gravity doubles, that balance disappears. Every satellite is suddenly traveling too slowly for its orbit. Nothing explodes, no warning lights flash. Solar panels still produce power. Computers still function. Ground stations continue receiving signals. For a few minutes, everything appears perfectly normal. Except it isn't. Each orbit is becoming slightly smaller. With every lap around the planet, the satellites drift a little closer to Earth. At first, the change is almost impossible to measure. Then it begins accelerating. The lower a satellite falls, the thicker the atmosphere becomes. That thin layer of air creates drag. Drag steals speed. Less speed means a lower orbit. A lower orbit means even more drag. It's a runaway chain reaction with no escape. The first satellites disappear quietly. One weather satellite suddenly stops transmitting. Engineers assume it's a technical failure. Minutes later, another goes silent. Then another. Within hours, mission control centers around the world realize something terrifying. The satellites aren't malfunctioning. They're dying. That night, people step outside and see streaks of brilliant light racing across the sky. Some burn orange. Others flash white before vanishing into darkness. For a moment, it looks beautiful, like the greatest meteor shower in human history. But those aren't meteors. They're pieces of the civilization you've depended on every single day. Weather satellites that warn us about hurricanes. Navigation satellites that guide ships and airplanes. Communication satellites connecting remote villages to the rest of the world. One after another, they burn away in the atmosphere. The consequences don't arrive all at once. Your GPS starts making small mistakes. A turn appears 50 meters too late. A cargo ship drifts slightly off course. Weather forecasts become less accurate. Storm warnings arrive later than they should. Remote communities lose satellite internet. Air traffic controllers lose one of their most important navigation systems. Banks struggle to synchronize transactions across continents. Emergency responders find it harder to coordinate during disasters. Each failure seems manageable on its own. Together, they reveal something humanity rarely notices. Modern civilization isn't supported by one giant invention. It's supported by thousands of invisible systems working together. Remove enough of them, and the entire structure begins to unravel. By the end of the first week, humanity has stopped asking when life will return to normal. It never will. The old world is gone. The only question left is whether a new one can ever take its place. The first generation would pay the highest price. Not because they were weak, but because they were built for a different planet. Their muscles, their hearts, their cities, their technology. Every part of civilization had been designed around a world where gravity was only half as strong. That world no longer exists. The first years would be brutal. Millions more would die from famine, disease, and the collapse of global trade. Entire regions would become impossible to supply. Mountain towns would be abandoned. Skyscrapers would slowly empty as climbing dozens of flights of stairs became an exhausting daily battle. Cities would stop growing upward. Instead, they would spread outward. Low buildings would replace towering skylines. Homes, hospitals, schools, and factories would all be built closer together, simply because every extra step now carried a higher cost. Long-distance transportation would become far less common. Moving goods across continents would consume enormous amounts of energy. Communities would begin producing more of what they needed locally: food, medicine, building materials. The age of global supply chains would slowly give way to smaller, self-sufficient regions. Even sports would change. Basketball hoops might be lowered. Marathons would become almost impossible. High jump and pole vault would disappear entirely. Children would grow up without ever knowing what it felt like to leap effortlessly into the air. To them, flying through the air would seem like a superpower from an ancient world. But humanity's greatest advantage has never been strength. It's adaptation. Generation after generation, natural selection would quietly begin reshaping our species. People with stronger hearts would have a better chance of surviving. Those with more efficient circulation could remain active longer. Shorter, more compact bodies would require less energy to move and place less strain on the heart. Over thousands of years, the average human would gradually become stockier, denser, and better suited to life under heavier gravity. If one of those distant descendants could somehow visit Earth today, they would watch a child sprint across a playground, see a gymnast launch several feet into the air, watch a construction worker carry heavy materials up a staircase, and they would think they were witnessing magic. Not because we are stronger than they are, but because we were lucky enough to evolve on a gentler planet. So, could humanity survive if Earth's gravity suddenly doubled? Almost certainly. But the civilization that survives wouldn't look like ours. The world of towering skyscrapers, global shipping, high-speed air travel, and satellites linking every continent would gradually fade into history. A new civilization would emerge, closer to the ground, more local, more efficient, built around the simple reality that every movement has a price. In the end, gravity wouldn't destroy humanity. It would simply force humanity to become something new. The next time you stand up, walk across a room, or climb a staircase without giving it a second thought, remember that none of those actions are guaranteed. They are possible because Earth happens to pull on you with just the right amount of force. Change that one invisible number, and the entire history of civilization changes with it. Gravity is silent, invisible, easy to ignore. Yet it shapes every step you take, every breath you draw, and every city we've ever built. Perhaps the greatest miracle isn't that we learned to live on Earth. It's that Earth was gentle enough to let us. After watching this, what's one everyday thing you'll never take for granted again? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, thank you for watching.